So you're having kale nuggets with rice, honey cherry onions, beets, and that spicy woman tomato soup on there.
Awesome.
So you'll try it out and see if it's too spicy with the rice. I don't know.
Well, I think with that sweet stuff
Oh,
there. Let's see.
because the spicy stuff just gives me hot flashes at night sweats. I can't have that anymore.
Well,
Or at least not right
Huh?
now. So
because that's one of the things you like eating.
yeah.
I'll mix the kale in.
So I
So-
fell asleep to this, I think, earlier today, but that's not because that's not that doesn't say anything about the show. The show is excellent.
Yeah.
This is one of the best shows that has ever been created, and
I've got a special weakness for it because I was raised in a Mormon community for 7 years. And also, I've been exposed to cults. One of them was
even within your family.
my family. That's you anticipated what I was
I
going
did.
to say. And they didn't practice polygamy, but they had a wild and crazy leader. Kind of would do preaching. I experienced several of his services, and he'd be rolling his eyes. So he's kind of like an unholy roller or something like. Well, he was holy. I mean, it was kind of like Baptist, only more so. Like what I was raised in, and then an offshoot of that. And they thought the world was going to end.
Well, it might have ended
1968.
for them. They perched themselves in such a precarious location.
Well, 2 different locations. Now, I don't know what other locations they'd move around.
Oh, I see.
But when we first encountered them, it was 1968, and they were certain. They were basically just north of Vancouver. So if what you do is if you take the distance from Vancouver to Whistler and then double that, that's where they were at. And they thought the world was going to end in a nuclear holocaust and they were going to survive.
That is such a bad place to perch yourself
They
if
would
you
have
think
got
the world is
toasted,
going to
I
end.
think.
Yeah.
I think they were roughly. At any rate, so they were picking up burned out hippies and stuff like that. Early burned out hippies. I think the rest of the world started noticing them with the Jesus Freak movement. It started going around 1970. This is 2 years early, But yeah. Newsflash, their leader's dead, and the world's still here. Kind of, sort of. I
Well,
mean, it's going to end in a whimper, it looks like, more than a bang. Who knows?
we'll see.
Yeah, if the Chinese have their way.
Anyway,
The People's Republic of China, for all you folks that think it's racist to criticize.
well, honestly, I think it's looking like possibly, if you want to call anybody racist right now, it might be fair to call the Han Chinese racist.
Yeah. And here's
Against every other
it was
culture.
hilarious,
Every other
they were
race.
trying to fight the Cold War by bringing in people from Africa, and here's a guy reporting it. He was a communist, and he was a South Asian extraction. He was not of white extraction, okay? And boy, I hate that word white. I hate that word black. But anyway, he just didn't qualify. And here's what he said. He said Japan has the most racist society in the world. Okay? And but he was laughing about the Chinese and what would happen to black intellectuals in China. They were just ostracized and all that sort of stuff. So. He was no big fan of the Americans or capitalists or anything like that. He was the kind of communism he sympathized with was the Soviet, the Russian type of stuff. But but he wasn't of Russian extraction or anything like that. And he knew, like the Chinese back then were racist, like real racists, and they are, if anything, worse now.
So anyway, I wanted to talk about Big Love.
Yeah.
So the acting in here, they have some decent actors.
Oh, they have more than decent.
Yeah.
They have movie quality actors, even though it's TV. Bruce
Yeah.
Dern, been a movie actor going back to the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
The guy
And
was an alien.
I have to admit, this took me a while to watch because I noticed it sort of on TV. I didn't watch it because I thought, I don't want to watch a show about a bunch of Mormons. I mean, how exciting can this be?
Yeah.
Well,
Mormons are pretty exciting.
glad that I watched it eventually. And this is, I think, my second or third time through. Second time anyway, for sure. But possibly third time through. And so this is, I have here 2, 3, and 4. Season 2, 3, and 4. And of these, it gets pretty interesting. Season 5, I think, was when they wrapped it up, if I remember correctly.
What a shame.
I haven't
It should have
watched
gone on
it
for 10 years.
yet again.
Wow.
So I don't,
Yeah.
I own these, thankfully, because the library discarded them, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with them. They're excellent. So I get to watch them again and again. And because I bought them at a library book sale.
So whoever's watching them didn't destroy them.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's good.
And so I haven't went through the 5th season, although I have it in the basement too. But I haven't went through it again yet because it's sort of I can sort of remember what happens, and I'm like, but I'll go through these again later anyway. But and plus it's summer and I want to be out doing stuff. I don't want to be inside. But sometimes I get tired and I just put on the TV because I'm gonna fall asleep anyway. And this often ends up keeping me awake because it's really interesting. They did such a good job. Now I think of these 3 seasons, my favorite actually is season 2. Just a lot happens there that then ends up
Coming back to haunt them?
yeah, unraveling later on or whatever, and so there's a lot going on in this season 2 that keeps you interested in the next seasons to come. And of these, my least favorite is actually the 4th season. I didn't enjoy it nearly.
When he
as
was
much.
doing the political
Yeah.
thing, that wasn't realistic. That
Yeah.
stuff would come out.
Mhm.
There's no way
exactly.
he'd get elected
No, without
it being
Yeah.
well before him.
Yeah. So I didn't care for season 4 as
I
much
can
as
see
you
him wanting to do that.
did. Sure.
But what they should have done is just had him trying it, testing the waters, and finding out he's exposed.
Yeah. Anyway, but I think it was season 2. I should have reviewed them as we were going because I can't remember now. But I think it was season 2 when you see the girls in the little cowgirl hats and outfits and on stage, and you're just like, oof.
Okay, Reefy.
Yeah, it's it really putting it on this show really puts that whole thing into perspective. And what else happened in the show that was just there's this 14-year-old kind of child bride who ends up running away, and she gets some fame on TV and stuff, outing the whole thing and the ceiling.
Oh yeah,
And-
she's singing the happiest girl in the whole
the
USA.
the happiest girl in the whole USA, and it's heartbreaking. And you don't even like that girl.
No.
You're watching it and you're like, God, I can't stand her, and I should want to help her, but I just hate her so much. And then at that point, though, you realize she's just a little girl and she can't help it, and she's screwed up, and you start to think, well, everyone in that Juniper Creek cult is messed up, and sure, you hate Nikki. Everyone hates Nikki. Who wouldn't hate Nikki? I mean, she's like your worst nightmare when you think, oh, I'd like to have another wife around. Boy, we'd sure get a lot of work done. And then you see Nikki and you're like, oh my gosh, no, right? And but she came out of that, and so you think, well, that's not her fault either. It kind of gets you thinking, well, people are raised a certain way, and what do, right? They end up just carrying around all this baggage, and you can't really hold it against them. You might not want to be around them. It might make your life a lot worse if you have to be around them, but at the same time, you can't blame them.
The trouble is, they tend not to be able to keep it to themselves. Like you can see Nikki producing this stuff. It reminds me of my relatives, you know.
Sure.
They were hanging with us. We'd hang with them. You know. I think some of them tried to come to berries with us. And the big trouble is, all the time you're with them, at least with certain of them, and these are kids that are younger than you in some cases, it's a huge lecture. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, we could be lecturing you all the time about how stupid you guys are, how stupid your leader is, how stupid your life is, and we're like this, you know? And then you're getting constantly this, and you're going, wow, you guys have no clue.
Yeah.
So some of them were nice, but I'm not going to mention the particular ones I dislike in particular. But yeah.
Well, they wouldn't watch. They probably don't have a TV.
Well,
how would they hook it up?
See,
It'd
they're
be
not.
out
They're
in the middle of nowhere.
No,
They're not in the middle of nowhere.
they kind of saw the line.
Oh, they did.
When that idiot leader died.
Oh. And that's too bad. Now that it looks like the world might be ending with plague after plague after plague.
Yeah, like
and,
with a whimper.
And antibiotic resistant bacteria.
Yeah, more like civilization ending.
Yeah.
You know, like they were thinking the whole world was going to end.
Sure.
They were actually millennials. So
I mean, it's funny.
Jesus was going to come back and rule this destroyed world. Like that'd be fun.
It's funny in a way,
for
seeing,
1,000 years.
Sitting back and watching this whole thing unravel and say, wow, you can still see a lot of aggressive people wanting to fight to take control of everything.
Well, it's China.
And it's like
the People's Republic of China. They want to bring the whole world down to their level so they can rule it, right?
Yeah.
Because they know they can't dominate
and then
on their own.
It's just gonna crumble. I mean, what can you do with that? It's like.
Well, it's the same thing with Russia, putting Donald Trump in power in the United States. They're bringing the United States down to their level so they can rule it, right? Yeah. Right now, what we've got is China and Russia coming up with alternatives as to who's going to rule the world, and it's not going to be like the United States. You flunkies who are all paranoid about the U.S.
But yeah, this
ruling the world.
Season 4, I ended up crying myself to sleep over that one because, I mean, it ends up Nikki's going to a fertility clinic and stuff, and
were they using and abusing her?
Well, I don't want to give away the story. It's
there we
watching.
Okay. I think that's kind of what they do.
It's she would have ended up with a pregnancy out of it, which is better than I think. When I went to the fertility clinic, I think we ended up paying $450 because we weren't told.
That was just for an assessment.
Right away that, we weren't told about, we could have paid $200 for in vitro, but we weren't told that, I just wanted to get artificial insemination and try it out and just see if it would take. And then that would have been $450. So we paid that, but then the doctor was like, it won't work. And she was like, you'd have to, even with in vitro, you're going to have to do it several times. It's not going to take. And
it was expensive each time.
And,
what was it each time?
Anyway,
was it 10,000
look into
bucks?
it because the price probably varies depending on where you are. And so then I was taking the bus back to Lethbridge afterwards, and there was a guy talking to me, it's funny, just how people they'll come up to me and tell me things, and it's seems strange, that like nobody has approached me about this before or since. And so he was talking to me about how his wife and he had tried in vitro fertilization in the bus station. And I'm like, really? And how did that work out? And he said, well, we spent $80,000 and then we just decided to give up. And I thought, well, this guy here, he's talking to me, and this is really a sign.
So he was using the bus too. He might not have had to use the bus.
Anyway.
You've gotten toasted $80,000.